afternoon. Thank you for joining us here at FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. We appreciate you joining us. It's been quite a while since we've checked in with some of our local educational institutions. We do talk a lot about what's happening in the Fall River Public Schools and the Diamond Regional Vocational, but higher education, sometimes we need to check in on every now and then. And this is an interview I've been waiting for a while and looking to speak to this individual for quite some time. I'm pleased to be joined now by the Chancellor at the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, Dr. Mark Fuller. Dr. Fuller, thank you for joining me. How are you?
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I want to get into, some items that are happening at the university. Plenty of Fall River students have go to the university and continue to go there and have been there in the past. Let me just ask you first a little bit about yourself, because I haven't had a chance to speak to you since you were announced as the interim chancellor about a year ago. You were appointed fully to the position last summer. For people who don't know about Mark Fuller, give us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been with the University of Massachusetts system in a way for about a dozen years now. I started in 2009. I was recruited to be the dean of the Eisenberg School of Management at UMass Amherst, and I served as dean from 2009 to 2018. After that, I was appointed as the vice chancellor for advancement for the entire University of Massachusetts Amherst, which basically ran our philanthropic activities, the marketing communications to alumni, all of the events that were run in conjunction with the university. So dean at UMass Amherst at Eisenberg for 9 years, 3 years as vice chancellor for advancement. And then I was asked to step in as interim, as you said, in January, just about a little over a year anniversary for me. And then I went through the job search process and was appointed permanently into the position in August of this last year. So I'm thrilled to be at UMass Dartmouth. I love the UMass system, and I think that there are sort of great things ahead of us.
Something that's interesting, obviously, with still dealing with COVID-19 and the effects of that. You've been chancellor at a time where it hasn't really been a normal UMass Dartmouth. What's that been like in terms of not really fully experiencing, at least in person in some instances, the atmosphere that can be UMass Dartmouth?
Well, it's funny. I actually had dinner with Laura Douglas the other night, and we were talking about, wouldn't it be nice to have normal, challenging problems associated with higher education? There's obviously issues anyway that you have to solve with higher education. You're always looking at enrollment, retention, providing a really high quality educational experience, moving your research agenda forward if you're a research university like we are. But meanwhile, amidst all of that, we have to manage through the pandemic. And so remote learning and porting to those environments and, trying to create campus climate and culture in, a very different universe than we've ever had to deal with before. So, yeah, it would be wonderful just to have the normal problems that we all seek to solve in higher ed, but you layer on top of that the pandemic, and I'm now at least an armchair expert at air quality, vaccinations, boosters, social distancing, mask requirements, the Bristol community, or the Bristol County, hospitalization rates, ICU rates. And so we really try to monitor all of those things.
Yeah. So, as the university stands right now, fill us in terms of what are some of the mandates of COVID-19 that students are facing there at UMass Dartmouth. Here at Bristol Community College, we have a vaccination policy for students and staff. We continue to wear masks indoors. What's the current situation there at UMass Dartmouth?
Yeah, we hopped on the campus safety issues pretty quickly here. And last year, we made the decision to require vaccinations. I mean, it's challenging. Of course, we allow for religious or medical exemptions, but we are about 96% vaccinated with our faculty and staff and students. So a really high vaccination rate. We also made the decision this year to require the boosters, which is a little bit more challenging because you have to track when people are rolling on to eligibility for the boosters, because there is a time period that you have to follow after the primary vaccination. But we're trying to maintain a very, very safe campus environment. And to be honest, it's been successful. We did entry-level testing when students came back in January. So all students, all faculty, all staff went through testing. Our positivity rate, again, armchair expert, was about 4.6%, which was very, very good. Obviously, this new virus is different than the original virus, and Delta tends to be much more spreadable and contagious, but a little less dangerous in terms of outcomes, especially if you're a nearly fully vaccinated population. Nonetheless, we maintained our mask mandates indoors. We're watching sort of the public health guidelines unfold, and we're seeing some loosening related to mask requirements indoors, but we've maintained ours for the time being, along with the rest of the UMass system. Obviously, student safety is a huge priority for us, but it's also not lost on any of us at the university that, you know, it's difficult to study and interact in masks indoors all the time. So you lose many of the signals that you would normally get in face-to-face interactions. And so some of that is muted because of masks. And so we, like probably the entire universe, are looking forward to the time when we can return to sort of a normal face-to-face interaction. But right now, we're maintaining vigilance related to mask requirements.
Yeah, what's the current breakdown, let's say this semester, in terms of number of students that are taking in-person classes? How many students are actually in the dormitories there? Obviously, last year there needed to be, a pare back, actually from 2020, because there was no vaccine in place. So what's the makeup right now in terms of in-person classes versus online? We have seen obviously a shift to more online just in general practices. What's it like there at UMass?
So I'll answer the housing issue first.
Yeah.
So we have about 7,000 more students. About half of those, maybe 45% of those students, live in the dorms. So we're about a 50-50 residential commuter campus, drawing heavily, obviously. 70% of our student population is drawn basically from the South Coast. So we have a heavy dominance in Fall River, New Bedford, et cetera, throughout the South Coast. So we're back in business. We're not really doing remote learning this semester at all. I mean, we did that in the past when, the Delta and the primary variant were in full force, but we're back, we're back in the classroom. And now that doesn't mean that if a student, becomes ill, that they can't, maybe catch lectures online, or that if a faculty member were to become ill, could they deliver some stuff online? Of course they could. And so we obviously follow standard isolation procedures if somebody were to catch it, but we're back. We're back in the dorms, following, again, the indoor masking requirements, vaccination practices, and we're back in the classroom.
Yeah. Let me ask you about enrollment. Being here at Bristol Community College, the college has seen a dip in enrollment. I know it's not uncommon. Every higher educational institution is seeing cutbacks in enrollment since the pandemic began. What's the situation there at UMass? What kind of percentage have you seen in terms of a dip?
Yeah, so I think similar to what was experienced at the community college, we're living through sort of a strange phenomena that's related to maybe some juniors and seniors, where some of them have not sort of come back immediately. The community college, because Laura and I spoke about this, enrollments have dipped because in many cases there's a lot of jobs available, or people are taking a break from going to school. And so we're seeing a little bit of that at the junior senior level, which is a new thing for us. And so we're monitoring that, trying to see what's going on. On the other side of the coin, we're very, very encouraged about what's looking forward. So we sort of retooled our enrollment management functions this last year when I came in, and really tried to improve our customer service, our outreach, our marketing communications to prospective students. And we have the highest application class Now that application class has to turn into yields and they have to actually come here, but we have the highest application class that we've had over the last 3 years. So we're very encouraged about, what's going to happen downstream, but we're still sort of living through, if you will, the hangover from the pandemic and as we move into the endemic status. So a little bit of a dip in some strange places right now, but optimistic going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's good that the application number of applications is at a 3-year high. So that would signal some good news going forward. One of the things that that I have read about in terms of students interested in going to college is you mentioned about the fact that people are taking breaks, and we're in a situation where because of COVID, people there are more employment rather opportunities for people, even those in our gateway cities like New Bedford and Fall River. Students locations where there's low educational attainment that would benefit from higher education. They're able to get jobs now where hourly rates are higher than they've ever been, and some may be questioning, why should I go to school when I'm making a decent living in the workforce? How do you try to balance that in terms of saying that's great, but getting your diploma, getting a higher education could even yield greater benefits?
Well, you're priming me for the open house that I have coming up
There you go.
this weekend. So the reality is the outcomes for higher education are great. Now I know that you can go out and earn 15, 16, $17 an hour, which annualizes out to about 30 to 35,000 a year. But if you look at what you can earn going out of for example, our institution, a research public university, I mean, our average exit salary is over 50,000. So you've obviously already gone up over that if you will, that 34, 35,000. So an extra 15, and that's on the average. If you hit some of the business or the STEM disciplines or the data analytics, you're all of a sudden exiting at 80 or 90,000. Could be nearly 3 times the amount of salary that you'd earn going back to the workforce. I went to a presentation, an open house presentation by the computer science department here, and they're exiting out at a bachelor's level at 100 grand. And so, depending on the field, a little bit more, a little bit less. So even though those opportunities to get a job at the 15, 16, $17 an hour are out there, and there's a lot of them, there's clearly a high need for the workforce. Higher education and the value of higher education has actually never been stronger. So just like that demand at those lower level wages, which seem high, is out there, there's tremendous demand for college graduates. And then of course there's the master's and the PhD programs beyond that. So if people can stick with it, and this is part of our job, it's part of the community college's job, it's part of my job as a messenger for public higher ed, to tell people to pursue the degree, because it can make a 2 or 3-fold difference in their salaries on the back end, and lead to, obviously, I'm a first generation college student, and so I understand the transformative effect that higher ed can have on a family's life, not just the student's life who graduates, but the rest of their family who may not have gone to college. They may end up earning twice what their family income is going to college. So I think we have to keep reminding people about those facts, and they are facts. And one other thing, last 20 seconds on this answer, is that we're getting over 90% placement rates into jobs or graduate school upon graduation. So the outcomes are great, the exit salaries are great. We're putting people in Google, Apple, Raytheon, EY, you name it. So there's tremendous opportunities in the market right now for graduates.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the programs at UMass Dartmouth. That's something that I know is always evolving at higher educational institutions, and I know a lot has been made. I was listening in on a grant that the university was awarded last week, $4.3 million for naval research So talk a little bit about how the university is trying to hone in on some of these emerging fields that would be of interest to students here on the South Coast.
Yeah, I think that one of the niche areas that UMass Dartmouth has is in the area of what I'll call the blue economy, and that could include offshore renewable energy, fishing, engineering, computer science, hospitality along the coast. And so we have, because of our location, some natural advantages in that domain. The research grants were actually, because we are a doctoral granting research university, that provides some special advantages to us as an institute of higher ed. And so we can get students involved in many cases in the research that's going on. For example, on the offshore wind renewable energy front, we not only look at, the production of the energy, but we're also looking at how to anchor, turbines in the ocean floor so it creates the least disruption to, the coastal sort of flow as possible. So all of these things are done in conjunction with sort of the research arm of the university. This year was one of our highest, and the last 2 years have been our two highest grant funding years in our history. So there's a lot of interest in terms of how to manage that coastal economy. Renewable energy is critically important to all of us. We're with the Connect Group, which includes BCC and others, to really study and look at the impact and the economic development opportunities, whether it's offshore wind, renewable energy, coastal economies, et cetera. So very excited about the work that we're doing there.
Yeah. If you can put on your actually take out your crystal ball and look ahead, maybe to your second year at UMass Dartmouth, when things become a little more normal, hopefully later this fall. What are your hopes for the university as it continues to grow?
Well, it's interesting when I meet with the faculty, I tend not to do this a lot, but I've got what I call affectionately the 4 R's. And so we have 4 areas that we're really focusing in on that we believe can move the university forward. We've made tremendous momentum in some of these areas already, but we really want to press in and lean into these 4 areas. So the 4 R's, if you will, are recruitment, retention, research, and reputation. And so we obviously want to continue. We're very excited about the application pool that we have. We want to turn that into enrollment because that increases the vibrancy and the financial positioning of the university. Or obviously, you want to have strong enrollments to increase that positioning. On the retention side, we've brought in a brand new vice chancellor for student affairs. We're in the midst of a provost search on the academic side. And what we're really trying to do is create a unique and sense of belonging amongst our students. So recruitment, retention, so that students persist, because we all certainly I do, get very frustrated if I see a student leave before they've completed their degree, because that becomes a tremendous waste of money and their time, right? They could spend 1 or 2 years pursuing a degree and suddenly leave before they finish, and they've lost that opportunity to maximize those salaries and those opportunities on the back end that we spoke about earlier. So recruitment, retention are key for us. We also want to, as we alluded to in the last segment, increase our research profile. We want to understand, for example, how we can help the fishing industry, how we can help renewable energy industries, how we can contribute to the economic development of the South Coast. And so those are clearly, very significant things for us. And then in general, to just continue to enhance the reputation of UMass Dartmouth. We believe we have a very unique positioning, not just in the South Coast, but also in the UMass system. In the South Coast, we're really the only research university among many fine educational opportunities, but we're the only research institution there. In terms of the UMass system, we actually have an intimacy at our campus that rivals many of the private universities. So whereas many of the other universities tend to be much larger than us, we're limited to about 7,000, maybe 7,500 students. maybe 20% of that at the graduate level, and the rest of those at the undergraduate level. So we have a chance to really get to know our students here. We have high touch classes. We have, I think, the lowest student faculty ratio in the UMass system. So we're really trying to maximize our reputation as a great provider of a high quality education at a research university at a great value, as all the publics do. So we're excited about pursuing all of those, if you will, all those R's: recruitment, retention, research, and an overarching reputation.
Yeah. Finally, on a lighter note, reading your bio, you were born in Nebraska, raised in Arizona, but I see a Boston Red Sox banner behind you. Have you always been a Red Sox fan?
Well, strangely enough, I grew up watching the Red Sox and the Celtics. Now
Oh, there you
I
go.
grew up in Arizona, even though I was born in Nebraska. I lived in Arizona, and back in the day, right, there were no Phoenix Suns, et cetera. So I would watch the big rivalry at the time in basketball was the Celtics and Lakers. So I can
Right.
go through all of those teams and talk about that, and in many cases rooting for the Celtics because they were interesting, and I think that connected me to the Boston Red Sox. So I'm a big Red Sox fan. I haven't had a chance, obviously, to get to many games over the past year and a half. I'm
No.
looking forward to, that piece of our life returning to normal as well. But
Yeah.
thanks for noticing. Got my banners, or I guess it's over this side.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dr. Mark Fuller, the Chancellor at UMass Dartmouth. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully we can catch up again soon. I appreciate your time.
I would enjoy that very much. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
All right, thank you. And thank you for joining us here at FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great rest of your day.